Okay, so you guys were right. There was something going on with Facebook Live, whatever. I don't know. I have to get that analogy figured out that I was trying to explain earlier. So yeah, I don't know what happened, but it was just Facebook Live. But it was hard. It was hard to get on Facebook Live earlier when I first started doing it. So there was probably a glitch somewhere in that whole connection. All right. So law and order. Okay. In order for the human body to survive indefinitely and live indefinitely, you got to have law and order. There's a reasoning behind it. Okay? So when I created this post about entertaining speculation. Entertaining speculation is so much easier than proving intention. Humanity is lazy when it comes to understanding what drives intention, and that is not something that is proven by hearsay. So until you can prove intention, don't bother speculating. It's only confusing the issue. Understand the laws. And so somebody says, well, what's your intent? Okay. And my intent is that he's like, well, aren't laws restrictions? No. Laws are guidelines. They have consequences. They have order and they have chaos. Okay? So you have either law and order or you have death and chaos. All right? So there's two different outcomes when when laws are being broken or abided by. So life is abiding by the laws. Death is a consequence. And this person wasn't understanding, because when you have a bunch of anarchists out there, because this is the whole thing about anarchy and extreme thought processes, they will turn into more of a mental illness as you get older, degrading. So you're seeing all of these people out there that are activists that are taking very extreme sides. And I finally come back to center. It's not like I tried to come back to center because I'm trying to ingratiate myself to mainstream media. I'm not trying to kiss anybody's ass. No, the reason why I came back to center is I realized that there are reasonings behind what goes on in our world. Now, yeah, we do have mutated people out there that are corrupt, but the system as a whole, if it was really truly that corrupt, there wouldn't be law and order. We wouldn't live in a relatively peaceful society for those of us in the West or the South or the East. Okay? And so I was watching this show last night called Hoarders with my husband, and I was watching this one episode where this guy was like one of the conspiracy type people. Anti-government, anti-law enforcement, anti-everything. And he also had another mental illness. It was hoarding. So not only was he violating all the different ordinances, but he was also being a public nuisance, but he was also a very mean old man. And so when law enforcement finally had to come out because his garbage and everything was piled high into his house to the ceiling where he can't even get to his toilet, can't even get to his bed, and he cooks on a tiny little stove, his little egg and bacon, and he had garbage all over his property, he would not accept any help. He was so caustic and so mean to the officials that are trying to help him because he has a major mental issue. Not only was he a conspiracy anti-government anarchist, but he's also very aged, his body's breaking down, and he has a hoarding issue. So it's not just going to be, just the conspiracy activist mental illness. When you're on that trajectory, you're going to have other issues go on coupled with that. And that's where mental imbalance comes from. And then also physical imbalances, biological imbalances. And so law and order is going to protect the people who aren't imbalanced as other people, because you can't legislate morals. We can't legislate morals. They've already tried. So this is why I've come back to center, because I realize that we can't force people to do things or be a certain way. Okay, even some of the mainstreamers out there, because I've talked to a few mainstreamers out there yesterday, and I'm saying, you know what? Because they were all talking about the thing with Luke Perry and then doing the whole misinfo that he took this pneumonia vaccine, and now he died, and that was not actually him, it was somebody else. And we don't even know if the guy actually died from the pneumonia vaccine, because it's another hearsay. Okay, because hearsay, we're not playing with hearsay anymore. We're not speculating why a person died. And so yesterday, so when I was so when I came back to center, and I decided not to entertain that, somebody else picked up on that. Okay, somebody else and Patheos picked up on that, and they realized that I was not taking a side of the whole anti-vaccine, pro-vaccine. So I finally came to center. And when I was talking to a mainstreamer yesterday, that's right, I was trying to figure out what the hell I was going with this, because you guys are distracting me. Stop talking. Damn it. I got to learn how to not pay attention to the damn newsfeed. All right. So I was talking to this mainstreamer, and he was just rattling off of like, oh my gosh, all this stuff in the vaccines, all this and that, and everyone's just all about the adjuvants. And this, I'm like, man, when you think about it, you got to understand all the different arguments out there. You got to understand, what's the point? How did you get here today? How were you able to go to school and feed yourself and feed your family? How are you able to go out there and get on the internet and learn something new? There has to be infrastructure. There has to be law and order. There has to be rules. If not, then guess what? We'll turn into some third world country, always in some kind of power struggle with some other force that's out there. Do you realize over there in like Rwanda, do you want to end up like Rwanda, where you have roving gang members with all of these big guns going in and raping and pillaging? No. There's got to be, and then you can't force everybody to eat healthy so they're peaceful, right? You can't even put prohibition. We couldn't even get prohibition or win against the drug war. You realize that the drug war has never been won. You realize that prohibition never was really put in place, because people are going to be people. But there are consequences to actions, and we have to set rules in place that will take care of the lowest common denominator and keep everyone in relative peace. Because just like anything, when you violate a law, you have a consequence. Okay, so we know that we can't force a person to eat healthy, so they're not going to be they're not going to be like the way you are. But if they violate a law, then they go to jail. Right? We as a species are not. The reason why we're not mature enough to not have rules, because you have to have rules, is because we're not on the same page. We have people that are believing in life, indefinitely, and that's the JJUICErs. And we have people believing in death. When you have two different absolutes that people believe in, then you're going to have a little bit of chaos, but not a lot. I think we were all on this. Well, actually, here's the thing. We all believe that we should die, but we don't believe we should die right now. And there was still chaos. Now it really isn't that chaotic, because there is nothing in JJUICE that would cause anyone to die right away. So now it's like, now I think we are realizing that if you truly want to live a peaceful, indefinite life, there has to be law and order. And if not, there's no way to achieve that indefinite life. Okay? And so so yeah, I guess you can call it maturity, or I guess you can call it education. I guess you can call it getting the hormones in place. Plus also getting through all of the distraction, all these different words that are creating different worlds, that are creating differences. And so anyway, so I have now finally come back to center. But I'm taking it to another level. So I've come back to center to where now I'm not taking any sides. I understand why the government agencies are there. I understand that we don't need anarchy. I understand that there is a role for all these different agencies. There is. But we don't have to die. That is the only thing that sets me apart from both the allopathic and holistic, the mainstreamers versus the alternative mainstream. Because I'm even seeing some mainstreamers are playing the whole anti-government. Oh yeah, the government doesn't have our best interest at heart. Yeah, actually they do. You don't have your best interest at heart because you don't understand. This is what this one guy was saying. He was trying to defend his wife, and I completely understand because, you know, yeah, husband and wife, they are a team. I get it. It's not just the wife that I'm arguing with. I'm arguing with the husband too. Okay, not even arguing. I'm more like not even debating. I'm dropping seeds because they were, yeah. This person put out an article about the whole thing of that. Oh, it was Luke Perry that did this. No, it wasn't Luke. It was somebody else. That's what I was trying to get at. Oh God, hate when I lose my train of thought. But I was saying, hey, you know, because they were saying, I'm like saying, hey, just leave everybody alone. Because I wasn't going to JJUICE because they knew about JJUICE, but I wasn't going to go and promote it on there. But I said, hey, if people want to get vaccines, there's a reasoning behind it. Leave them alone. Because no matter what, you're acquiring antibodies through the allopathic holistic, and you can't but sequester yourself and live in a bubble. So, you know, there's a way to dilute the antibodies so it doesn't become a problem. Because you have too little antibodies and you have issues, then yeah, you have an immunodeficiency issue. Okay, you have too much antibodies. Now you have like an overactive immune system that's also destroying good tissue. So, and this lady was like, well, so do you promote vaccines? And so that was an assumption. If I'm not promoting anti-vax or something, then I'm promoting pro-vax. No, that's not the automatic go-to if I'm not promoting anti-vax. No, what I'm promoting is everybody makes a choice. You read the inserts on every single thing. You understand what you're getting yourself into. But if you understand JJUICE, then you wouldn't even go there. But people should have the right to choose. Okay? And we've got to inform the ramifications. And that's fine. I mean, that's where, because no matter what, whether you do a vaccine or you take a prescription drug, no matter what, everything has specific side effects, and you just got to understand how it works. And not everyone wants to understand, so they just do the shortest thing and the easiest thing. So fine. And you can't bang it in their head that this is wrong because they're going to think that you're wrong. So it's like this whole thing with the elevator, with gravitation, you know, when you're moving, is it gravity or is it acceleration? And you can have total arguments unless you know what precipitated this thing to move, whether it's gravity or acceleration. You can have arguments all around it. But if your whole point is to stop the gravity and stop the acceleration, and that is your formula, and you have a formula like JJUICE is a formula to stop the death process, because gravity or acceleration is like death, let's say an analogy. And now we have a way to stop both, then it doesn't matter if it's gravity or acceleration. It doesn't matter if it's the anti-vaxxers, the pro-vaxxers are the ones that are passing around the disease. It doesn't even matter because now we have something that's going to then make it irrelevant. But, you know, so anyways, so I got off that because they're all about the adjuvants and everything. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So it's like now we can see that we can override all of the antibodies that are out there. And then this transmission actually is way more difficult. Just so you know, I've been kind of tripping over my words and struggling. And obviously, right now, the last like 5 or 10 minutes has been a struggle because we had to get off and then get back on. I had trouble getting on, and then you guys couldn't hear me, right? So this is difficult because it's not taking a side. We're so used to taking a side and making somebody wrong and getting a hormonal response from it that it's a new kind of way of being. It really is. And so when you're coming from the side of education, not from the side of right, from the side of taking a side, It's a difficult thing because we're so programmed to take a side on something. We're so programmed to ram our information down somebody's throat and make them wrong and be right and be like the hero. We're so programmed to do that. Now trying to communicate in a totally different way, it's foreign. It's foreign for me. When I saw that Patheos article that was going over that thing about the anti-vaxxers adopting this whole false story that Luke Perry died from a pneumonia vaccine, and they took one of my screenshots, but I never said anything about that, about Luke Perry dying from a vaccine. I just said, hey, this is the face of 52. Let's change the face of 52 to where if you look like you're 25 to 35, and that's if everybody thinks that you're 25 to 35, and that's it, that's the face of 52. And you're living, you're not dying. But yeah, and so they actually screenshotted my post, and they didn't blur, or they didn't, like, you know, scrub up my name. And I think it's because I'm a public figure, I guess, but not, I don't think I really am, but I think they know that I don't mind the advertising, because now I finally come back to center. I'm neither for or against anything in the anti-pro-vax world. You do what the hell you want to do, but do JJUICE. I don't care if you do a vaccine. I don't care if you don't do a vaccine. Do JJUICE. I don't care if you smoke a bunch of pot. I don't care if you do a bunch of drugs. As long as JJUICE is somewhere in the mix and your intention is to get off the illicit drugs, get off the prescription drugs, get off all the different things that are harming you, then I'm okay with your choices. If you happen to be an ascension artist, a minutia maven who is so, like, you know, all into the details of stuff, if you happen to be a Christian, a Catholic, a Jewish person, a Muslim, gay, straight, LGBT, whatever, I don't care who you are. If you're human and you have pets that you care about, do the JJUICE. That is the universal thing that is going to connect every living thing and every domesticated animal and every human on this earth. So we don't have to worry about division. Oh, what a concept. No division, because guess what? We are actually abiding by the laws. If we don't go 90 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, we can survive to see another day to then do the JJUICE. If we don't steal from our neighbors, guess what? We're not going to go to jail, so we can do the JJUICE and then accomplish our goals and dreams. If we actually learn how to speak about JJUICE, okay, and put energy into JJUICE, we won't be putting energy into those divide and conquer, total, like, crap, conspiracy, extreme thought processes. Okay, that's what I'm talking about, is you really need to, I mean, people really do need to learn how to speak about JJUICE, give life to JJUICE. Not give it lip service, but actually give it life, because that is the unifying force that will then make all your arguments out there irrelevant. And I don't care who you are. If you eat an onion, if you eat a little bit of garlic, if you eat certain things, that's okay. Do the JJUICE. Now, with the protocol, we have a specific diet, but one of these days, when you're healed and sealed, you can have a little bit of garlic because it has heavy metals that your body needs as part of the trace elements. It's called balance, okay? That's the whole point of my protocol, is that you're not going to be just sequestering yourself and saying, oh, I'm going to stay away from this and stay away from that and be a bubble in this and be a bubble in that. No, now you understand how the world works. You understand balance, and then you will act accordingly. So that way you're not living from this, well, you know, being very legalistic and judgmental on other people. You're actually let people live. You're going to live and let live. And if you happen to be a carnivore and you buy your meat at a grocery store, okay, so be it. No one out there should judge. I mean, we don't live in a society where we go and shoot our own meat. So yeah, we do pay somebody to go and do this. Now, how they do it, okay, maybe there should be some kind of rules around that. And that's for you to do a research on how to acquire meat that has not been terrorized. But that's still political. And people have done that, so we get off the politics and allow people to do what they got to do, as long as they understand how balance work in the scheme of things, biochemistry, the environment, everything. Okay? And so JJUICE says that yes, you're going to mitigate certain things. You're going to mitigate certain things, so that way you can finally go from way behind the 8 ball to then the pendulum swinging way the other way, and then finally get back to center, and then understand what center actually means. And that would translate in your speech, in the way in which you interact with everybody. And you will see a change in yourself, physical wise, as well as what you post on Facebook. Because what you post on Facebook will tell everybody exactly your politics. And as far as JJUICE, I can see who's on JJUICE and who really isn't. The ones that are not really on JJUICE are posting the activist political stuff. They're always playing the divide and conquer, taking a side, and they're still in the matrix. So I know exactly who's on JJUICE and who's not, because I can see it in their posts. They're not coming from a point of center. They're coming from a point of contention, a point of like, hey, you know what? I'm still part of the divide and conquer. And so that's how I know. And believe me, I mean, I've played that game too. I mean, my first book was, I did have some anti-vax debates in there, but that's where I was at the time. Now I'm not adopting those stances anymore. And I'm taking it up a notch. And I'm trying to train all of you to take it up a notch by saying, hey, instead of coming from a side, come from a point of education. Instead of coming from a for and against, come from a point of education. I had to point out the differences of the holistic world. But if you happen to still, abide by certain things in the holistic world, do the JJUICE. You don't need to do those supplements. You don't need to do that hot yoga. You don't need to do that hot sauna. You don't need to do those exercises because it may undermine you. But if you have to, do so much JJUICE. But if you don't see any major marked differences, then maybe you need to kind of put some brakes on your exercise, on your hot yoga, on your hot sauna, on all of your different illicit drugs. Maybe you just need to take a break from that, unless of course you're in chronic pain or you're on a prescription drug that you're required to take for whatever reason, and that's okay too. If you happen to have a transplant, that's okay. Drink the JJUICE. Let your doctor know what you're doing. Get support. Understand the protocol. So this is where the rubber meets the road, to where everybody can do JJUICE. And no matter what your belief systems are and what you do, you can still do JJUICE. You can still do it and derive benefit. And it's going to change your mentality. It's going to change your physical biochemistry. It's going to change a lot of things. And I have taken off yesterday. I have been deleting fair weather supporters. I have, because they're vocal on my Facebook, for one. And second, they don't understand balance. They're trying to go and do all this research on, oh, I think we can eradicate antibodies. You can never eradicate an antibody. That is part of your innate immune system. The three things that keep you alive, as long as they're in balance, as well as could cause you death if they're imbalanced, are antibodies, which are natural killer cells. Candida, yeast turns into candida, can turn into cancer. And then hormones. You need hormones. Okay, why we have so many imbalances in our world is because we're inhibiting the good hormones, and then we are manipulating and putting out there the hormones that aren't exactly the good ones, the ones that are there for when you are in danger. So when you are living on adrenaline or oxytocin or endorphins and dopamine and serotonin, you're chasing pleasure centers because you're in pain. And then that is an addiction. Okay, so now finally, we have figured out how to create a balance with all of that. We don't need to eradicate hormones. We don't need to eradicate the natural killer cells, and we don't need to eradicate yeast, because yeast is part of us. Antibodies are a part of us. Every antibody that you acquire for whatever reason will always be a part of you. It's a matter of how out of control they can be to cause then symptoms, inflammation and symptoms. And so when somebody had milk weaponized against them, how they acquired it, it could be gravity or acceleration. You don't know really which one started it unless you know the precipitation of where it came from, and nobody knows. When you have so many factors that can make gravity acceleration happen, you're not going to know. When you have so many factors that have caused you to have some kind of disease, whatever it is. It could be from that 20th sex partner you had. It could be from your mother. It could be from your grandfather. It could be from that dude down the street that you said hey to, and you smoked, a cigarette with them and exchanged bodily fluids. You don't know how you picked up all of these different antibodies to cause then your certain diseases and whatever else that you have. So instead of blaming, you now have a way to then keep those antibodies at bay so they don't become a problem. So, we don't have to play the blame game because we don't know. There's too many factors. So there's no point in blaming anyone or anything for your situation. Now, what are you going to do about your situation? That's what it comes down to. What are you going to do to keep everything in balance? Okay? And so yesterday, a few people that have been on and I actually visited too. I visited her house. She's like, well, in my opinion, I think you can get rid of antibodies. By gone, I'm not going to debate my science with you. You haven't been following me long enough and you're still stuck in the minutia and playing with somebody else's thesis that conflicts with mine. I don't have any time for that. And then other people that are just like, I just don't have time for anyone trying to undermine, because now I'm trying to connect everybody. But here's the thing. If you're not ready to be connected, not ready to be, to play the game that I'm playing, I don't need to hear that you're not ready to do it in so many different ways, because people think they have to live in a bubble. That's another person yesterday that I took off, because she thinks that, oh, it's all about prevention. What are you preventing? Pathogens or healing? You can't prevent either. You're gonna be healing. That's called pain. You can't prevent pain. It's gonna happen until you die. And you can't prevent pathogens. What are you gonna do? Live in a bubble. She thinks she can prevent pathogens from entering into the body. She's like, oh yeah, JJUICE is a miracle thing, but it's all about prevention. What the fuck are you preventing? What, do you put your kid in a bubble for the rest of their life so they don't get any kind of germs that create antibodies? Are you kidding me? She's like, well, that's your opinion. Bye later. I don't have time for your bullshit. I really don't. You can't prevent pathogens and you can't prevent healing. So you might as well promote balance. See, prevention is the wrong way to approach your body, because it's a fallacy. I'm always going to have people that are not going to like me. Now, I can kind of lessen the amount of hatred coming at me by not entertaining trolls and going on to websites that hate me. I'm not going to go and find their problems, but I know they exist. I can lessen the exposure, but I know I can't prevent them, because they're going to do what they're going to do. It's the world that we live in. We don't live in a fucking bubble, you guys. Okay? When I go down the street, I can't prevent pathogens from coming at me. When spring happens and pollen comes in the air, that's antigen. You think I can prevent that from happening? No. Okay? So I'm not sure exactly where this lady was coming from, and she's been on my Facebook for a while, but also she's in Reiki, yoga, all this other stuff. An empath. Yes, I'm going to make that known. And so, hey, I get it. You're not at center yet. You're not doing the JJUICE at the level that you should. I don't have time for it. But hey, if you decide to, which she's not going to be on my Facebook. I mean, she's doing the JJUICE, but in her own special way. And that's fine. So nobody is like completely blocked off of JJUICE. I just don't need to see the dissension in my world. I know it happens. People hate me. That's fine. I don't care. But that's their choice. But she's not exactly contributing to the unifying of humanity. She's still playing people against each other. And I don't want to play that. Everybody, now I've made some missteps in my life as far as how to roll this out. And I've owned up to it. And now we don't really know what normal is. Male and female can be interchangeable on any human, because that's how hormones do what they do. Because when you're on a death trajectory, regardless, you can play with hormones and create whatever the hell you want. And people think it's revolutionary. No, you're just playing with hormones. There are drugs that elicit hormones, elicit an outcome. Okay, so that's not any different than changing genders on people. It is what it is. Now, if you're on a life trajectory, we now will see what is normal. We don't even know what normal is, because we haven't even gone there. I'm probably the longest person on this protocol, and I haven't changed into a dude yet. Okay? And it may, I mean, and I don't know what I was originally created. I don't know. I'm only 2.5, almost 3 years onto this. It'll be 3 years in October. Now, somebody else doing the protocol, and I don't know, it's not in a controlled circumstance, who knows what kind of changes they're going to experience. Okay? So it's like there's no way to actually pinpoint what normal is. So we can't put out what normal is. So there's no point in saying that this is wrong, that is wrong, that is wrong, that is wrong. Okay? Nothing is wrong out there. It is what it is until we see in the different contexts what the outcome is. And that's what I've been totally like focusing on, parthenogenesis and all the different ways and all the religions and everything else that's out there, okay, and what they mean and how that translates into hormones and God and this and that. So I'm trying to connect everything that we've ever been exposed to, so we see that we are all on a universal playing field, and now we just have to understand this universal protocol, so that way eventually we can all be universally on the same page. And who knows where that will take humanity and Earth. But right now we're all so like all over the place that there's a lot of death and chaos, and there's a lot of law and order too. There is 2 opposing factions right now, but that's okay. Those are the only 2 opposing factions. That's it. Everything else is a distraction. You believe in life or you believe in death. Okay? That's all it comes down to. So if you believe in prevention, that's just another argument and distraction that doesn't fit in with the life model, because you can't prevent fluctuating elements at any given time. You can't. And you can't get rid of antibodies out of your body. You can lessen the amount, and that's where the whole thing with the titer tests. Okay, so this is where, hey, you know, when you, if you don't want to get a vaccine, well, you better get a titer test before you do JJUICE, because JJUICE will dilute your antibodies. Because you have too many antibodies, it will cause aging, autoimmunity, and other types of issues. Too little based upon, too little, and you also have a malfunction in your immune system, that's the HIV, then that's already a disease. But no, the JJUICE will regulate what you already have in your system. So when you do get in contact with a pathogen your body doesn't recognize, it may take the hit, but you may not even feel the hit. The hit may be so minuscule, and it won't have a manifestation like this other dude who has a very weak body, not a weak immune system, but a weak body. Okay, they're not doing JJUICE, but they get hit with the same pathogen, and they may have a very different experience than your experience, because you have a strong body. You have all the right nutrients to repair the damage from that hit. When somebody gets hit with a pathogen and they don't have all the nutrients and all the things, then yeah, they're going to suffer a lot more than you. Because I'm sure I've been exposed to pathogens my body didn't recognize. I'm sure of it. And I'm sure I may have felt kind of weak, but not that weak. Who knows? Maybe some of the mucus I had maybe one morning was because I came in contact with a pathogen my body didn't recognize. You don't know from any given day what you're going to be up against. So instead of trying to prevent any pathogen from entering your body, living in a bubble, reinforce your nutrition, and then let your immune system work the way it's supposed to. Don't let your antibodies get out of balance. Don't let your yeast get out of balance. Don't let your hormones get out of balance, and play the playing field. Just play nice. Don't try to force any type of thought process. Give people the information in a very educated, non-hormonal, reactive response, and drop seeds. And then remove or turn off the notifications so you're not going back and forth. That's what I do sometimes. When I want to drop seed somewhere, I'll play a little bit for a minute. As soon as I start seeing it becoming like, oh God, now they're going personal, I just turn off and I say, hey, I'm not here to debate, just drop seeds, take it or leave it, bam. Because people say, hey, they throw their degrees in my face. Oh, I have a science degree. Oh, I don't like you. I mean, you have a funny way of explaining the immune system. You know, I mean, they do catty comments. I'm like, hey, that's great. Congratulations on your science degree. Stop being so tunneled. Take or leave my information. I'm just dropping seeds. You figure it out. And then that's it. I leave the conversation. And now it's up to them if they want to research my information. They can. So that way I'm not getting caught up in trying to impose, but I am dropping seeds, so I'm not completely like keeping this information silent. It's a way in which you drop the information is how effective it's going to be. Okay? And some of you don't even want to drop it at all because you don't even know how to get out of a conversation. You get caught up in the whole emotions. Okay? And then some of you don't drop it at all because you don't even want to attempt it because you know you're going to go there. If you can't even drop seeds because you're afraid you're going to be emotional, you still need to do more JJUICE. Because really, if you truly want to help humanity, you know JJUICE is the thing to put out there in a way that is going to not trigger somebody. But people will get triggered, but you're not intending to trigger. But they will. But that's okay. You leave it alone. Then you get rid of the triggers. Okay, get rid of the people that are triggered by it because they're not, they're not obviously in a place to listen to it. And then maybe one day they will. But I don't try to trigger anybody. Okay, I'm not purposely trying to elicit a crazy, cluster. I'm just trying to drop seeds of information. But you got to be responsible how you do it. And sometimes I mess up and I make mistakes, and sometimes I don't, and I do good. And it's always, it's a learning process for all of you. Okay. Yeah. So, with the JJUICE, all you're doing is you're trying to overwhelm your body with nutrition. That's why drinking a lot in a short amount of time, and then when you're thirsty, drink water, and then you get the waterfalls. It's so paramount because what you're doing is you're energizing those nutrients to then rebuild it. Well, fix the damage, fix the mutations. And then pain is the healing. So you're actually releasing the prostaglandin hormone. You're not inhibiting it anymore. That's what the anti-inflammatories do. That's what the immunotherapies do when you're getting all these stem cells. Like they're saying the whole thing was like, oh yeah, we just cured AIDS with stem cells. Okay, so when you have stem cells that are foreign objects, okay, foreign objects, and now you're trying to cure somebody of AIDS, the AIDS virus. So you're giving them bone marrow. You're giving them blood. You're giving them some other stuff, stem cells. Well, once that immune system becomes strong, right, because that's the opposite of HIV. HIV is a human immunodeficiency, right? As soon as your immune system is back up, it's going to purge out those stem cells. And then where are you back to? Back to square one. So yeah, you may have just temporarily cured somebody's AIDS virus. They still have the antibody, but it's not something that's going to happen long term because they haven't got to the root cause of keeping those antibodies at bay. Okay? And so the JJUICE is nutrition that will energize the nutrients. So you have the nutrients in the cabbage and kale, you have the electrolytes in the pink salt, you have the trace minerals in the pink salt, you have the water as a carrier force, and then you drink a lot, like a bunch in a short amount of time. You get the waterfalls, you fix the mutations, you allow the prostaglandin hormone to then elicit the pain so you can finally heal. And then your healing happens in stages. You can't dictate what's going to heal first. The body is going to prioritize based upon severity. You may have healing, or it's like my husband, when he drank the juice, he had an immediate headache. The reason why is because something was going on in his head that he needs to get fixed first. Brain cells probably need to be regenerated. I mean, someone else may have like eczema come to surface. Somebody else may have some other things happen. It depends upon what the body deems is most needed to be fixed first. And so this is going to be a journey through your internal cosmos, because now you're going to see where the issues are in your body that you have sustained for so many years. You're going to finally see what issues that you have sustained. So when someone says, oh, I'm so healthy, I say, haha, do the JJUICE. We'll see how healthy you are. If you're aging and you're managing a disease, you're not healthy. Nobody is healthy in the matrix if you're not doing JJUICE. Nobody is. You may have managed your situation and with drugs and supplements, but you're not healthy. You're just manipulating your hormones. What true health is actually facing the demons in your body, dealing with fixing the mutations, and being okay with it, not trying to stop it. Though I know some of you have a lot of pain, you may need to turn to painkillers occasionally. Okay, I understand that. But your whole point is to actually, in the right context, regenerate the cells that were mutated because of that initial exposure of a pathogen, because you don't live in a bubble, but you never fix the mutation. See, this is why people are mutated, is because, first of all, they came into this world mutated. That's what reproduction happens, is because you're mutated. And so the body doesn't, the human species doesn't want to risk extinction, so they bear a baby, so you're fertile. So you have a baby, the baby's mutated. Okay, fine. Well, the baby gets exposed to, the mother's breast milk and all the different pathogens in the environment. So they get natural immunity from the breast milk, but then that's also the family history. Those are antibodies. They're mutations. You're basically inheriting all of your mother's mutations, or protection, as the industry calls it. And so, so then the baby gets mutated and they suffer different, inflammation. And then it colors everything that they do. And then they get exposed to more stuff, let's say through a vaccine or through the environment or through something else. They suffer another hit. But the body adapts and it goes into homeostasis after a minute, after the initial hit of the inflammation or whatever symptoms. But now that body is mutated. They've never recovered from that. They never fixed the mutation. So now there's like, another little kink in the chain. There is an anomaly in the business process of the body. And then if you're not fixing mutations, guess what? Over time, all of those anomalies become bigger and they become larger, and then they become more severe. And then guess what? You have an event, or you have some other types of issues like chronic pain, or you got autoimmunity in some way. And then now you're like, okay, now you're working at a deficit. You've already been at a deficit, now even more of a deficit. So then you do JJUICE, and now you're revisiting all of the times that you were hit by the different mutations. Some are not as severe as others. Some of you will experience stuff that when you did illicit drugs and had all these crazy hallucinogenic types of experiences, you may experience that if you've been dealing with hallucinogens for a long period of time. Okay, so you got to let people know if you've had major issues in your world. Let somebody know if you dealt with suicide or hallucinogenics or anything else, because you're going to need the support. You're going to need the support, okay? Because you will be revisiting times that you don't want to remember, that you've stuffed down. Okay, and that'll happen mentally, and this will happen physically when you're on the JJUICE, because now you have to when you finally heal, you got to face it. It's like going back in time. Okay, but you got to go back in time to then finally recreate the new you. And I had the same issue too. When I first did the JJUICE, it was like I had an extreme feeling. It was triggered, my husband and I were fighting, and I was just so upset. And it was like all the upsets in the world that I ever had in my whole life was like all in one moment. It was crazy. But it came as fast as it went. Okay, and I've had a lot of different upsets in my life, in my world. But it wasn't like I was dealing with mental issues for like months and months and months. No, it was just like it all happened all at once. And then I got over it. And wow, a new person, a sigh of relief. Thank freaking God. I mean, that's what it was like. Now, some of you may have other mental issues that are a bit more severe, so maybe more than just one day. You may just have feelings of depression, feelings of this. Drink the JJUICE, okay? Because you're going to be dealing with things that you've had to deal with that you forgot about. And then you'll be reminded again, okay? So, yeah. So anyways, so it's just so weird coming back to center. And so Patheos, they did that screenshot and they didn't blot it out. So that was interesting that they gave me a little bit of free advertising. But I mean, I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm not trying to cause division. I've gone through my own healing process, my own growth process in the last 3 years. And it wasn't easy. And so, if you own up to the mistakes that you've made, they are forgivable. They really are. Because you have to understand intention. Okay, you can speculate all you want about me. You can speculate, I can speculate about you. But what's the point? How do you prove intention? I think I have proven my intention over and over and over again, but that's matter of opinion. Okay? So until you can prove that I am nefarious, then there's no point in even speculating if I'm like legit or not, or if I'm a scam artist cult. Because no, I mean, I'm just coming from the point of science, the point of uniting humanity, the point of life. Life everlasting, where there is no death in the equation. And if there is like mutations that happen, it's because we do live in a universe that is ever fluctuating. However, you have recourse to repair the damage. No different than when you're in Hawaii in a very mild climate and you walk through a bunch of banana leaves and you happen to rip off a leaf as you're walking by. Well, you haven't killed the whole environment because you ripped off a banana leaf. No, that banana leaf will then repair itself. That tree will repair itself and regrow a leaf, because that's how that biological process in that climate works. Okay, so you're always going to be coming up against pathogens and things that are going to cause mutations, but you will fix the mutations. It's not going to be something that you're stuck with and you adapt to, because right now we've been adapting to our mutations for so many years and we think it's normal. Okay, fine, it's great, it's normal, but hey, let's change our belief system. Let's change from death as an outcome to life everlasting. So that means that, hey, if you have a mutation and you're on a life trajectory, that mutation is going to get taken care of. So I don't even have to go through the names of all the different diseases and mutations. If you're a human on this earth, you're going to get taken care of by the elements that are in JJUICE, in the formula. It's a universal formula because we're dealing with universal bodies. When you have a universal formula with a universal diet and a universal healing symptoms, with a universal body that has universal 11 different systems on the same planet with the universal same periodic element tables, whatever, you're not going to have anything too outside of the, the whole, you're not going to have anything anomalous. Everyone's going to experience their healing differently based upon their lifestyle, but it's not going to be anything that's not recognizable. Yeah, we may have new diseases out there that have different conglomeration of symptoms, but it's still with the same body. You're still dealing with the same elements. You're still dealing with the same outcome. So if you choose life, then you're choosing law and order. If you choose death, then you're basically choosing death and chaos. So always abide by the laws of your body, of your community, then you will sustain life everlasting. And then you will go through the biochemical changes of your hormones. You'll go through biochemical changes of everything. You will finally allow the prostaglandin hormone to finally work the way it's supposed to. Yes, you'll be in pain. And then you won't be taken aside playing the divide and conquer and the judgmental game. You'll realize that everybody is just like you. Nobody is superior. Nobody's inferior. We just had different sets of mutations. And some people won't be able to reverse their mutations because they won't have the wherewithal to understand what is truly going on. And that sucks, but that's the way life goes. So be very grateful, be very happy that you have the cognition to understand what JJUICE is about, because you can change the outcome of your life. Some people cannot. They can do the protocol, but they probably won't because of their cognitive deficit. But maybe somebody has to speak to them in a way and have the support system to show them, but not everybody can. Not because they physically couldn't do it, because they won't understand. Everybody can do JJUICE. Not everybody understands JJUICE, but everybody can do JJUICE. So can the animals. Every animal, every human, every plant, every biological thing out there can do JJUICE, but not everybody understands. That's the only difference. That's unifying. Then it's up to each individual person to figure out how it's going to manifest for them, and if it's for them or not. All right. I'm going to do my thing. I know I have to write some stuff too. I got to do that. But yeah, today was a little bit difficult. It was a little bit difficult. So I have to think about why that was difficult. Because yeah, taking a side is very difficult. As soon as I got off the anti-vax platform, like really seriously, like really said it and focused on it and understood the whole thing about the antibodies, I've been shedding a lot of anti-vaxxers. That's a new space for me, because that was one of those arguments that I really held fast to. It was so like rewarding with the hormones when I was part of the anti-vax world. And now I realize it's no different than any other divisive platform that really isn't that different. And so, but I mean, I kind of knew innately, but I really didn't put a lot of focus. I mean, maybe I did, but now it's being kind of recognized a little bit. And now I'm saying, hey, if you need to go and prove antibodies, and you got a titer test and it shows that you're negative for MMR or something else, now I'm like, go get a vaccine. Go get a homeoprophylaxis. Go put your kid in a measles party. That's not something I would actually say, but I guess this is the world that we live in. You know, the government they don't know your belief system. They can't legislate morals. They have to treat everybody as the same. It is catering to the lowest common denominator. So if you want to take part in your school system, you want to take part in specific jobs, and they require you to have antibodies to prove immunity, now you have choices. You can get the vaccine, you can do the homeoprophylaxis, or you can go find somebody that has the disease and go, I don't know, kiss them or something. That's the only thing I could say is how to get those antibodies up there. Because, you know, when you get a drug test, they know everybody's done some kind of marijuana at some point. But it's the amount of antibodies that they're looking for to then elicit a positive on a test. Okay? So, yeah. So when you do JJUICE, it's going to dilute those antibodies as if you've never done the drug or if you never had exposure to that. Okay? It may go that direction. So I don't know. Do the JJUICE do the titer test before JJUICE and do the titer test after JJUICE, and you can see how many antibodies if you test positive or negative. But it's not like you disappear the antibody. No, antibodies will always be with you. No matter what, they will always be with you. It's the amount that elicits a positive or a negative on a test is based upon the conditions of the person who created the test to begin with. Okay? But you never ever get rid of antibodies. That never happens. It's the amount that they're looking for. So I never would have thought I said, go get a vaccine. I never thought I would say, go get a homeoprophylaxis. I never thought I would say, go put your kids in a measles group. But only for government purposes. Only for public health purposes. Because, and I'll tell you why, because there are people out there that are so mutated. They're so immunodeficient. They are so weak. And they don't know what people are bringing to the table. So the only way they know is that you're relatively okay, you're not going to die, or something's not, is that you have been vaccinated or show that you have protection. So that way they know that you're not going to die, for one, if you've been exposed to the virus. And then number two, you're not going to be a carrier to then, hurt somebody else. Good morning, Masa. Okay? That's the only reason why I would tell somebody to go get a homeoprophylaxis, a vaccine, or put in some kind of sick party, whether chickenpox party, measles party, or whatever party. And only for the required tests for public health, for occupation, or for school. But if you don't have to if you've already proven that you have the vaccine, if you've already proven antibodies, then don't worry about it. Do JJUICE, have fun. But if you have to prove that you have the antibodies and you've done a titer test and you're showing negative, even though you got the MMR shot a couple years ago, or maybe your mother passed down that immunity to you, but you've done the JJUICE, so you diluted the antibodies, and now you got to prove that you have it, or you have enough protection then get the homeoprophylaxis, and then get a titer test. Or, yeah, I mean, you don't even have to get, I mean, just get, what you do is you just show the proof that you got the vaccine or you got the homeoprophylaxis. Whatever proof they're asking for, you don't even have to show the titer test. You can just say, hey, I took the vaccine, I took the homeoprophylaxis thing. They then say, okay, good job. And then you go and drink the shit ton of JJUICE. Like, seriously. Oh, interesting, Nancy. Okay. Mom gave us ABC gum already been chewed to give a sibling. That's good. Okay. There you go. But I mean, if you're going to do it that way, then you got to get a titer test to see how that translates in, on a test. So that way it shows the government that you have the protection, right? So yes, there's that, or yeah, or whatever else. I mean, now you have all these different choices, and I don't love them. I don't like them. In a perfect world, if we didn't have to legislate morals on people, then, I wouldn't do it. But there are people that do die, that are very immunocompetent, that will be exposed to somebody that has this disease in a very aggressive form, because we have people that are anti-vaxxers that are not very healthy that will take on a disease, that've been exposed to it, and it will have they'll be very sick, and then they're shedding. And somebody that's very, very sick, like in a hospital or something else, they may die from it. I mean, it's kind of a messed up thing. But it doesn't matter. Anti-vax or pro-vax, doesn't matter. Do the JJUICE. Just do it. And if you have to prove antibodies, then find a way. There's a billion different choices out there. Gotta love the market. There's a billion different choices out there to acquire the antibody. And if it's only for a few things, then don't worry about it. You'll survive. You'll do JJUICE, you're going to survive. If you don't do JJUICE and you're already, at a deficit, then yeah, you're going to roll the dice. But if you do JJUICE, it doesn't matter. Do the JJUICE, it doesn't matter. You'll recover and you repair the damage. Okay, so that's why this is so difficult for me, because I would never, ever at all recommend anyone to get any vaccine. But now I understand why. Just do it, Maza. Now I understand why. So that's what it all comes full freaking circle. And yeah, and so the universe told me that the universe reconfirmed that this was difficult for me today. Because even though I said, okay, I hate the anti-vaxxers and the activism and I hate all that, but I never did recommend anyone go get a vaccine or homeoprophylaxis or go to a measles party. But yeah, because now we know that it's about antibody count. It's about antibody count that then elicits a positive and negative. So I don't want to put anybody in a position where they do the JJUICE and then they have to go prove protection. And now they got to go get a vaccine or something else to prove protection. Because I thought that the JJUICE, would give them the right numbers, but it'll probably dilute the numbers. You'll still have it, but you won't have as many as what is required. Okay, so now I have to kind of double back a little bit, be like, okay, no matter what, drink the JJUICE, but get those antibodies to prove protection for requirements. And that's it. And everybody can then be healthy and do the JJUICE. So no matter what, this covers it all. So there's no reason to be at all anti or pro-vax. Doesn't matter. Jesus. It's very difficult to come to full circle, but it's okay. It's what needed to happen. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go do my thing, but yeah, that you'll see me struggle through this transmission. Oh my God. All right, you guys have a good one. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk at you later. Okay. Nice to see you, Moss. Nice to see you, everybody. Thanks everybody. All right, bye. Hey, Farzan, you got to replay the whole transmission. You came in a little bit late. It's okay. All right, bye-bye, guys.